I'm Michelle. This is my so-called handmade life. I have my blog, My So-Called Handmade Life, and getting more active on it again. I used to be like daily posting way back when I did like 365 projects with really embarrassing photos. You know, you have to be in each photo, so like it might be my thumb in the photo or something, and then I would upload a day or two's worth in a post. I haven't done that in a long time, regular posting, but it's something I want to get back to. I think I will be doing it instead of Vlogmas. I think I'm going to do my own little Blogmas. And I'm Mamatronic on Ravelry. I'm also My So-Called Handmade Life on Instagram. So those are places you can find me. I'm pretty active on all of them. And then I always encourage people to leave comments here. Anything I say in the show, if you have thoughts about it or whatever, I do get back to my commenters. I don't ever foresee being so busy that I wouldn't have time to respond. It may take me a week or so, but I love hearing what you have to say and giving my feedback. And then what you say in the comments affects where our conversation goes from week to week. So right off the bat, I wanted to thank you all for your responses to my question last week, which was very personal. I'm going through a time of grieving, and I asked what your coping mechanisms are, or any suggestions you had for dealing with grief, or, you know, any kind of heartache. And I got some really good thoughts. I got some thoughts that reinforced things, kind of gave me a pat on the back. It's an okay, what I was going through. So, and the winner of that giveaway that I had, which if you left a comment and your Ravelry name or email, you were entered into the drawing for the Oak Crest hat. The winner of that is Adina, who is Chef Adina on Ravelry. So Adina, congratulations. I will talk to Vanessa. In fact, you'll probably have already heard from her by the time I put this on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for doing that. And thank you, Vanessa, for donating that pattern prize, and also reminding me or helping me realize that this hat pattern, which I finished mine, it was yours, because I didn't know until till you mentioned it, which makes it extra neat to have knit the pattern of a Ravelry or Instagram friend. So you can see here how great this is. Guys, 2-day project, 2 days. I started on it and I thought, I'll work a little bit every day till the next episode, and it was done in 2 days. I loved it, every minute of it. So let's get some focus on the cables here. Really interesting, held my interest, and I just love the little knot at the top. I used Capra from Knit Picks, which has some cashmere content. So this is actually kind of got a halo and it's fuzzy. If you don't like that, you might want to use something more woolly, rustic, or tweedy. I think I would like a version that is a little more rustic, but this is going to be so soft and comfortable to wear. Let me show you how it fits. And I was worried that it wouldn't fit, but it fits perfectly with the little knot. I suppose if you wanted it slouchier, you could knit a little more ribbing. I actually added just maybe 3 rounds of the rib before starting the actual stitch pattern, but let's see if you're getting this. I can't tell. Really, really cute. What a fast Christmas knit that would be. I am not pledging to knit anything for anybody for Christmas except me this year. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But if I were to knit something or last minute decide, hey, I have time, it would be this, absolutely. This is what it would be. Oh, and I know just who this would look cute on. Okay, so Oak Crest finished. I actually finished that when we went camping. my husband and I had been planning, I told you after the funeral, my father's funeral, we went away for like 3 days, like 5-hour drive away. And I had a migraine most of that time. Didn't have my migraine medicine with me because I was just not thinking straight. Turned out it was with me. It was in the compartment in my car the whole time, but I didn't know it, and I just wasn't thinking straight, obviously. So I suffered for 3 days with that until we finally came home. But I did the exact same thing when we went camping, and I forgot my migraine medicine, which is kind of like a little safety net that I bring anytime I go out of town. I just need to have it in my car. And the whole time we were there, I kept thinking, why is this happening? It's like my hormonal problems of years past is coming back, I broke out, and I'm having this headache, and I haven't eaten any of my trigger foods, and I've been really trying to be calm and restful, and we walked, what more can I do? And I really was a time of prayer and what is going on, because I couldn't sleep. I'm up all night thinking about it. And so some of it had to do with ladies' days, but also I'm grieving. That's what it is. I'm grieving. I'm not thinking straight. I didn't pack my medicine. I didn't pack some other things I needed. That's just how it is. I can't expect myself to be like normal. Long story short, with all that going on, I did manage to, and at this campground, I've only been to one other campground where I just wanted to hide in my tent. I didn't want to be outside because the people camping around us were kind of obnoxious, There were so many dogs that act like my dogs. My dogs, I have this older dog, Spot. And if he sees somebody, his vision's going, and he's more and more anxious as he gets older. And then when his old buddy Mo died, he's just gotten really to be a weirdo dog. We just raise weirdo dogs. He barks like nuts. And so if we brought him camping, he would feel territorial about our camper and bark at every single person he sees. Well, certain campgrounds, you're right next to people. So, yeah, we don't bring them. Well, everyone else did bring their dogs like that, and it was like hounds of hell for 2 days. Just choruses of dogs, and then young people howling back at the dogs, and it was kind of annoying, honestly. People screaming at their kids, just people yelling at their dogs for peeing, on the ground. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to hide in the camper or get way far away on a trail. And so that's what we did, one or the other. And it rained and was cold. So I was indoors actually quite a bit of the time in the camper. And I had plenty of time to work on my oak crust. And I also finished my Sunset Highway from a year ago. I finished it, but I didn't really want my sleeves to be fitted. They're not too tight or anything. They were, though, when I first, I compared the first sleeve with the second one that I was finishing while we were camping, and it looked like Popeye arms, like it went out and then it went in with this little chevron pattern that went a little muscle, like when he strung to the finish when he eats his spinach, So I'm like, Popeye sleeve. I hope I don't have to rip that back and reknit it. Because I don't think with this yarn being so slippery, I just don't feel confident that I could cut and sweater surgery it. Plus, this is a fingering weight, and it's kind of a little bit open weave, like it's an airy knit. So I think it would show if I Kitchener it. I don't know. I didn't want to do that though. So I figured I would just do some heavy blocking. So I get to the end of my second sleeve, and there's this major ribbing here. I actually knit these sleeves to be long, but because I needed all that extra width right in here and here, it's actually made them regular length sleeves, which is fine. And And I'm actually glad the sleeves are fitted because the body is kind of big, so it balances it. Anyway, my second sleeve, I did 1 rib instead of 2 rib. I had to undo it and redo the ribbing. But that only took a day of knitting time. Just a day. So anyway, it's done. It's been a year. Finally, I have this, my first Caitlin Hunter sweater, finally off the needles. All right, so here's something I noticed with a lot of these Sunset Highways, and you guys tell me what you think. The armpits come low, right? And the sleeves are fitted. Well, that's fine, but the body, even though it's big, I mean it's roomy, it wants to cling to me. You know, we're going from Fair Isle, which is almost like double texture, to very thin, and it's wanting to cling to my body. I did block it out, but maybe I need to be more aggressive. Because, you know, if it's wide and open and the sleeves are fitted, you can still move with some confidence. But I'm worried I'm going to actually rip the fabric here. It looks more like flying squirrel, you know? And I don't want... I want Sunset Highway. I don't want flying squirrel. So I'm going to work on widening and shortening the body because it's actually a little longer than I planned, and I meant for it to be not quite cropped, but right at hip length. So what it's doing, it's clinging and going long instead of blocking out. It's not the end of the world. I really like it. It's totally a show-off knit, just like the sea glass and driftwood was for me. I'm really proud of it, and I love these yarns. This is my very favorite color of Madeline Tosh ever. It's chicory, and it's a darker chicory. Like, I've seen it more recently. It's more like the second skein that I used here, which is lighter and more of a teal. I love this darker. So I had part of a skein of darker, and when I ran out, I kind of worked in the lighter one. This is Cully, the green, and it's Knit Picks Hawthorne tonal Cully, or else it's Hawthorne hand paint. Anyway, Knit Picks Hawthorne Cully. And then this one is like I Am No Bird of Wool and Vine Yarns, kind of the pink. I ran out of it though on the sleeves, or started running low. Look at all this hair. It's been here a year collecting mine and my animals' hair. I started to run low, so here and there I would do a round of Peepaloo Fields. I don't really remember that colorway, but I will post it here. Let me just show you up close. So this is I Am No Bird, but it really, if I had done just I Am No Bird, it would have looked like this. So, oh, and the body, the main part of it is one of my favorite colorways from a Homespun House, Digital Bath, which I just loved. I had 2 skeins of it. I wanted it to be something special. To me, there's nothing more special than a sweater, because I guess I'm a sweater knitter, you guys. Hang on, sorry. Talking makes my throat hurt and my mouth dry. Wow. So anyway, I finally finished this while I was on that camping trip. So even with a migraine, and even with, well, and because I was a little bit like really cold and rainy some of the days, it was kind of neat. I love being in a pop-up. You know, you've got the canvas top, so it has that sound of rain hitting an old-fashioned canvas tent, which is like the most comforting sound. Also, when the wind blows, because it's you know, pop-out canvas-topped bed sleeping areas, it sways a little, or it feels like it. And the wind, you can feel it and hear it. I just love those sounds of camping. So we spent quite, come on, I love you, come here. Yes, I love you. Yes, I do. You're not gonna lick my face, sorry. You're not gonna lick my face. So we spent quite a bit of time watching Netflix and me knitting inside while it was raining. And then when it wasn't, we were in our hammocks as we waited for our food to cook in the Dutch oven, or walking outside, which was so. I asked you guys how you're coping. How do you cope with grief, or how have you, or any ideas you had? And I'm just going to read some of the things you said, but I just wanted to say, and this isn't super well put together. I usually think through how I talk about things. I just want to do this with some regularity. So if you were sitting here at my house across the room from me, I wouldn't have some pre-prepared spiel for you. I would be just myself, and things would come out here and there and maybe out of order. And so that's just how it's going to be if I'm going to do this weekly, which I want to do because I've enjoyed getting to know so many of you. Yeah, so it's also good for me to say things out loud, even if it's not well-formed thoughts. It crystallizes as I say it to you on this podcast. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking during the night. What is going on? What is it I need to do different? And I finally came to a conclusion that was reaffirmed a few days later. I just need to spend a little more time in prayer. That we had this lesson in BSF, and they were saying that a lot of times hard times are allowed into your life. God allows them because you draw nearer to Him in prayer. And while you're there, He's revealing more of Himself to you because you're actually listening and you're looking. But He's also shaping the way you see things and the way you pray. And I mean, I really didn't know, what more can I do? They're blinding headaches if I don't have medicine. If I do have medicine, they went from taking 1 or 2 pills to up to 9 for them to go away, and they would come in waves for days. So this is days of feeling like I have morning sickness and headache pain, and when I lie down it's worse. And obviously hormonal, obviously connected to stress, but I cannot automatically control my stress. So realizing it was cycle stuff helped, because that always happens every month, and I just wasn't prepared. Also, it was kind of a good thing. This is so much information for you guys. Oh my gosh. My husband clicked off right when I said ladies' days, if he was listening. I started doing those hamstring stretches in one of Katie Bowman's books that I told you about, Move Your DNA. She says a lot of women have menstrual issues like cramping and pain and headaches even. People do because the backs of their bodies are just, they're not stretched out. They sit too much. We don't move enough, and we don't walk enough and stand enough. So I've been doing those stretches, and I haven't been having cramps like I used to. They were pretty debilitating. I still functioned, but I always had to take a lot of NSAIDs of some sort to deal with it. Usually I had a headache though, so, I was already taking some. There's been no warning the last few months because I'm not having all those back and pelvic area cramps, joint pain in my knees, just not having it like I was, which apparently is not just some sort of, it has to do with body alignment. So that's actually some good news. I wasn't prepared, and I didn't have my medicine for my headache, but the reason I wasn't prepared is I'm not suffering a couple of days prior to ladies' days. So anyway, so much information you didn't need. I've been thinking a lot about who I am now that I'm parentless on this earth, those feelings of over responsibility that I talked about last week. There's different things in my personality I could really stand to work on. And I also, like some of you suggested, I'll get to it. Let me just start reading some of your coping mechanisms. I told you I use music. Walking, definitely. A lot of you said similar things. Gail had said that when she lost her older brother, she tried to focus on good memories and allowed herself to grieve, and tried to remember that though she needs to grieve, they wouldn't want her to be sad. So it's okay to get over it too. So maybe finding a balance between sorrow and carrying on, which I guess is the challenge, because we all have to function at some point. Knitting Poppy, Louise, was saying that she copes by knitting a lot and being around nature, walking, preferably with her dogs, also being around children, kind of like that happy Latino music I was playing, the Fito Olivares. It's hard to feel sad or, when you're around the bubbly, vibrancy of children, and that's very true. I kind of thought I've actually been trying a lot of those things, like walking. We went on these long 4-hour hike. I also work with children on Wednesdays every week in BSF. It's like a Bible study, and I co-lead 3s and 4-year-olds, and it's really good for me to be around them. When I'm there, I'm smiling and laughing, and when I come home, I have all these funny stories that things they say or sweet things they do, and it's been very therapeutic, very good for me, Louise. So I see what you're saying there. And then I do walk my dogs daily. I didn't today because of rain, but normally I do. Cassandra was saying she likes to, or has handled death in her family by methodical cleaning, baking, organizing her Tupperware, things like that. It just takes her mind off of it. Maybe it's distracting, but also it's kind of rhythmic, and you can kind of get lost in the activity. I could see how that would work. I think walking is similar. Walking allows a lot of time for thinking, though. I'm not sure if your cleaning is that way, but I also did some photo editing of older photos. It was just something productive I could do, but I wouldn't be out where anything's required of me, and just spend a few hours going through, looking through photos, trying some new techniques of editing, since I'm not using Aperture anymore, which I had everything streamlined that I like to do there. Nicole said that I could just imagine that I'm a cork, and I'm finding a way to kind of stay afloat above the grief. I kind of combined that imagery with Lori, what she said, that when her mom passed away, hospice came in, and they gave her this image of grief like waves in the beach. And they said at first they come hard and fast, but over time they slow down and they lessen in intensity. If I put that together with the cork, that's where I've been. I've been thinking that because I can think fairly straight now, I just need to get back into living and not be so stunned by what happened. And it's just, I don't need to expect so much of myself. I told one of them in the comments that it's okay if I've been trying to kind of force myself to be a little better than I was. Get back to doing this and doing that. And it's okay if I'm just kind of wandering around the house for 2 days. I got some information, all things after the fact stuff. Last week I was just kind of blown away and sad. And I was mad at myself that the actions of another person could so upset me. I was sad about my dad. Just kind of wandered around my house like I was lost when I was at home. I wasn't using that time wisely like I normally would. I couldn't think straight. And then I just kind of was reading these comments, and I was thinking, well, I just need to let it go. I'm afloat. I'm the cork. I'm still afloat. So, yay, I succeeded. Voila, here I am, mastering grief. And then she also recommended, Lori did yoga because it helps her. She does yoga with Adrienne, who I follow on YouTube, but I've only actually looked at it once. I used to teach yoga, actually. I mean, I didn't get super far into it, but like the spiritual side of it, I didn't really do. I just wanted the athletic side of it. For the stretching and all. And I've been thinking lately that's something I could do since I'm trying to kind of keep my hormones calm and not run as much. Adina, who won our giveaway, she had said that it seems like the things I'm doing are pretty healthy to her. Allowing yourself to feel, keeping happy thoughts, positive people around, music. She's lost both of her parents and 2 husbands. And from this, she's learned that you have to grieve, but you don't have to force it or conjure up the emotions. Like you can just, I'm going to get through this grieving thing, conjure it up, try and deal with it all at once. That's just not how it works. It'll hit you when it hits you. And so, you know, talking and talking isn't necessarily going to make you feel better, and you really can't hasten the process. You just have to let it happen. I would never think of myself as someone who would try to conjure up feelings of grief. But I am someone who this week realized I've been forcing myself to kind of get past some things faster than I can. It's just causing me a lot of internal stress to pretend that I feel okay when I don't. So, like, the house isn't as neat as it would have been. I finished a sweater and a hat in a weekend and didn't do. So Rosamond was saying I should not hold back, even if it's uncomfortable. Her studies that she's done in Chinese medicine, I think specifically elemental medicinal tradition, hold that repressed emotion leads to disease, which I think most of us agree with, and modern medicine also agrees with. Anyway, she said there's a theory that we all have an inborn weakness somewhere in our body, and I guess it aligns with certain emotional things that can easily become imbalanced because of that weakness. And she used one like respect and grief have to do with, say, I think she said maybe the lungs or something like that. Anyway, she said that that when that, and it's also kind of linked to like one of the 5 elements, and that's connected to a season. So possibly at certain seasons of the year, we face those emotions and these emotional imbalances. And she'd recommended an acupuncturist, which I've thought of going to an acupuncturist for my migraines. You know, I don't know much about Chinese medicine. I know that a lot of ancient wisdom is proving true according to modern medicine and science. And just, you know, there's things like, obviously when I'm stressed out, I'm not doing well. It's pretty obvious to the, you know, naked eye. But something she mentioned, say with respect to grief, that in our culture we will grieve over small things readily, but true, real, deep grief, we hold ourselves back from it. That's true. And someone else mentioned that here. I think it was Lisa also said that grief and death are taboo, and we don't like to deal with it in our culture. We fear emotions on either end of the spectrum when it comes to grief. But she said to go ahead and feel it, and if it's too much, write it down. And if writing it, you know, you just need to rip it to shreds after you write it, then do it. Just get it out. And I think Rosamond said, you know, it seems like I'm doing some pretty healthy things, but if she were to add a tip, it would be to just not hold back. Get it out. Deal with it. Don't neglect. And so neglecting or rushing my grief is something I think I was starting to do. And I'm just going to give myself time, because let's face it, in June, it was a year after my grandmother's death. And my grandmother was like my mother to me, my best friend. And to have her die after losing my grandfather 2 years before that, I don't know. It hit me hard. I'm trying to get over that. I have been. I thought, I was doing good. I think I've been doing fine. It's been over a year now, but just barely. And then this happens with my dad. It was a total surprise. And I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take me to be normal again. I don't feel like I was back to normal. It's been 5 years, and I don't feel like I'm a normal 44-year-old in the way that I live. I feel like I'm easily rocked emotionally, and I'm fragile physically more than I should be. I mean, I say that, and then I do go and do crazy physical stunts, but I'm just not myself still. So now this has happened, it just may take a while, and I just need to let it happen and not fight it. And if I'm always a little weakened, oh well, just have to accept it. I'm just figuring out who I'm going to be now, or for right now. Pammy had said that she allows herself lazy days, reading, walking, or sleeping, whatever she needs to at first. And then eventually a time comes where she feels ready to go back to being normal. I like that. And that's what I just need to allow myself to do. If I do this, talk to you, instead of sweeping the house and, I don't know, folding clothes, then oh well, I did it. I'm just going to cut myself some slack. And I don't have a ton of responsibilities right now anyway, so I guess it's a pretty good time to just take it easy on myself. Jen lost her father 2.5 years ago, and she said she's still in a stage of grief to some extent. She still thinks about him every day, cries for him some, but has found that talking about him, it does help her. And her husband was really close to her father too, and so she has him to talk with, and that feels good, to remember him that way in good ways. But yeah, she's still dealing with it, and like Katinka had said, you can expect 2 years to get through the stages of grief. Just that's the average for a person. Amanda lost her brother 18 months ago in an accident, and she couldn't be near him. She couldn't be near any family as she grieved, because they're all spread out across the world. But for her, overcoming grief was bound to forgiveness because of the person who caused the accident with her brother. That's been helping her to heal, to forgive that person. But she retreats a little from the world, crafts, spends time crafting, indulged a little in spending, and really indulged in her son, who has helped her to heal. That relationship has been good, and that has been a blessing, and she's been healing. And she said she's still here, and she's still, her brother is still on her mind and part of her life each day, but she is still here. Sarah Jane was saying that ever since she was a child, she turns to nature when she's experiencing difficulty or grief. And just the smell of the outdoors, trees, moss, just does something healing inside of her. I used to ride my bike to the cemetery where my mother was buried. And behind it, there were some woods with trails. And eventually they built homes there, and you couldn't get back there. But there was like a little bayou. And by the cemetery behind it, it was kind of secret. There was like a little dock. And I would go sit on that and just think when I was a kid and I'd be all alone. There were trees all between the cemetery and it. You couldn't see it. It's not like that now, but it was then. And I just got away. Yesterday I actually went for a long walk to the cemetery and thought about that. But yeah, that's what I would do as a kid. The little bit of trees that were near me. Anyway, Sarah Jane said writing helps, and she has a group of friends who do the same thing she does. She's like energy readings, and so they all have similar, I guess, spiritual outlook, and they encourage one another. And it's taught her to ask for help and to find a balance between, going and experiencing the pain, but then also not letting it take over and get some help. So I appreciated that, Sarah Jane. I have friends online, like I told you guys last week, it's made a big impact on me. All the kind comments, definitely. Certain people that I talk with a little more online. Sarah Jane and I have a connection, and we chat here and there. I also have this group that I do where I work with the children, other leaders there. We have a day where we meet and we talk and kind of prepare how we're going to work with the children. And all of those women just, man, they helped keep the cork afloat. Definitely when I was going through all of that at the hospital. Vicky said she has no real advice for me, but just offered hugs. Sarah, who's one of those ladies in that group that were keeping me afloat with prayer, she said she copes with prayer and praising God in the storm, which is something I learned to do when I was in the hospital. It was like sad, and we were worried what's going to happen to Dad, but there were other things going on too. Like I was saying, there's some family dysfunction, and I just didn't let my thoughts wander to anything bitter or to be stunned or hurt. I just was telling God who He was back to Him. You've been my friend. You're here. You're with me. You sought me out. You hold my hand. You walk beside me through these times and things like that. And I would just say it. And here and there, anytime I started to feel down, actually, and I mean, it was like immediate armor on me. Things did not hurt me like they would have. I was calmer than I would have been. It just wasn't me. It wasn't some new evolved version of me. It was due to that, saying good things about the God I believe in. Anyway, I appreciate that, Sarah. Let's see. Ada said that time alone, time just letting herself cry, talking it through with understanding people helps her. And for me, yes. And that's like my sister telling me the other day. I'm like, why am I so tired? Why? She said, you're grieving. It helps to have somebody who's like you and understands you and loves you to be around. Kathy said talking openly, walking and praying. So a lot of the same things. A lot of us have the same ideas. Getting outside and walking is a big one. Melanie said that maybe perhaps this will, because I am going through a thing where I said in the last episode, who am I now that I'm one of the oldest people in my family line, She said it's like a passing of the baton, and though this is hard, that I would be stronger eventually from it. And that is true. I mean, that doesn't feel like a lot of consolation when you're in the middle of just the raw first grieving, but I know it's true from times past. I lost a parent when I was young, and I saw a lot of family members die in a short period of time, right before my mom did, and then my mom did. I would contemplate hard things that my friends didn't ever think about, and I started to kind of feel like distanced from them. We didn't have as much in common, but though they were great, I think I was kind of somber and intense thinking about these things. I also could see things in a harsh light. Like, I just rather know the worst of something. When other people would just rather not think about it or go there until it's inevitable, I just rather rip the Band-Aid off. That's who I am. So that could be too intense sometimes. Ask my husband. Ask him if I get intense. Let's just talk about it all now. What's the worst that can happen? Let's hash it out. But there is some strength that comes from being able to face bad things and knowing, like that cork, you're going to stay afloat. You've done this before. You'll get through this. Rainey, who is the dyer that I showed you, she's my local hand dyer who does Hugh's yarn. She commented here that she found comfort when she lost her husband from the rhythm of the needles, crafting, and the friends that she crafts with. Her knitting group really buoyed her spirits and supported her through that time, which I can only imagine. And thank you, Rainey, for leaving that comment. And she invited me to be part of their knitting group, which I think they do on Mondays, but I'm getting older. Like, I'm not that old, but I'm acting like an old person, like, oh, I don't want to drive 30 minutes. Oh, it's so far, you know. I don't want to drive at night. Anyway, I will do it. I think especially in the summer when it's, I don't know, days are longer. But Samantha, Fran, and Little Kitten all left just condolences, and I appreciate your love and your hugs and your kind words. So I went on and on with that, but I just I wanted to share those coping mechanisms, because I bet everyone watching this at some point has felt sad, and you are going to at some point. That's just part of life, right? One thing that is constant is to deal with emotions, just stay afloat, lean on people, move, get outside. So those are things I'm doing. I've decided, I was listening to this interview with, her name is Dami Rolls, I think is how you say it. She's, I think, from Holland, so I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. But it was an interview on Nutritious Movement, the podcast, and she was talking about long distance walking, and she's an older woman, and just women, some of the fears they have walking for long distances on trails alone, and especially older women. But as I listened to her talk about the healing power of long walks, I thought, yeah, I love doing that, but I will like save it for when I'm on trails somewhere, which is like this big momentous thing I have to make happen with our schedule and the money and the vacation time and all. I'm just going to start long distance walking, I think. I do like one long walk a week normally, but I'm just going to start doing them every day if I feel like it. I think it would be good for some of this internal whatever that's built up inside of me. And also, I can't run right now. I'm trying to heal like this thing I did to my back. I talk about how like I'm feeling weak and why do I have all this fatigue, and then okay, it's not a cartwheel, but it's kind of like a cartwheel that goes forward, and it's like a martial arts move. It's like a leg sweep thing. Anyway, I landed really hard on my foot, and it just, my foot's kind of off when I run, and my back, all the sitting in the hospital. Anyway, I'm not running for a while. My chiropractor recommended that I just treat it like a sprain and give it 8 weeks. So I'm just going to do long distance walking. I'm going to blog. So some of that writing it out, I'm going to bore anyone who reads my blog to tears with my thoughts. I think I'm going to do Blogmas and Christmas time and try to blog every single day in December, even if it's just quick thoughts. And maybe add some photos too. Not just knitting photos, but like I used to. I'm continuing off-leash training of my dog. Hopefully she will pass Rally next week. Ugh. She is the difficult dog in the class. There's one other that's like her. I'm just going to continue trying to express myself through different mediums, and I decided to just kind of, as I take it easy on myself, just do something I want to do. So let me show you where I am on my floozy. I love my floozy. I love every second of knitting on it, but I think it's taking me a while because it's size 1 needles. And that is tough for me. I am past the yoke now. You see, I've done with the last little section, and each of these sections are named something, like it's called the floozy. And when I first started looking at the pattern, I thought they were so cute because, like, one section is honey baby, another's cherry lipstick, and then oh, I can't think of one of the others, but it's just things you would imagine a floozy saying. I love it. It's super fine yarn, but it's slippery yarn on size 1 needles, and every stitch takes longer than normal for me. Plus, my hand cramps up some. So what I did, I'm still doing it, I'm working on it, but to give my hand a break, you know, I really found knitting this hat a great break for my hands. So what I think I'm going to do is knit, well, I don't think, I know I'm going to do it. I've signed up for a new test knit for Libby, and I don't know if I can show this test knit online, but I've just started. It's just a ribbing band, so I can show that. It is a burgundy color current from Wool of the Andes. I can always put in a picture of the yarn itself. To me, this is a very Christmassy color. So I'm going to treat this like a Christmas sweater, and I'm using this burgundy and natural together. It just makes me happy. I'm gonna try and bang this out in a couple of weeks, and I'm excited to do it. So yeah, I'm just trying to do some things. I'm give myself a break, my hands a break. If the sock knitting and the floozy knitting is a little tough on my hands, try something that isn't. And speaking of Libby, her newest pattern is it's a rehash. Like, she's come back out with her mindful shawl, which when she came out with the mindful shawl, I thought, that's not for me right now because I need mindless. I need mindless knitting. That was, like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but she's re-released it to be a 2-skein shawl, and just look at this. Oh, I don't think it's gonna show. Well, maybe she wouldn't mind if I put a photo in. It's beautiful. And she used this kind of like a pinkish brown yarn that to me just really, like she said, it's kind of a grungy pink. I love it. That is like one of my favorite colors. And now I want to do it immediately. I'm not going to because I need to do other stuff first, but Libby won't let me just focus on the last thing of hers that came out, because then she's always coming out with something else that's great. This is why I don't make things up for myself. Anyway, I thought this 2-skein mindful shawl, I have some Indoorsy by Wool and Vine Yarns that I could use, and it's kind of similar to that grungy pink that she used in hers, but I want exactly that color with that shawl that would normally look a little frou-frou for me, especially in pink like this. I don't know if this is a little too feminine almost, but if you remember that Hugh's superwash that I showed you last week, this is exactly what I'm thinking of for that shawl. Let me turn it this way. So it's brown and kind of a dirty pink, just like, it looks so much like what Libby used. I have got to try and get my hands on another skein of this. And then I would start the mindful shawl almost immediately, which I really shouldn't be doing. So I'll show you where I am with my Michelle socks. You know, I showed you I have one right here, which is Lovebird Lane Yarns Michelle colorway. and I just added a little extra stroll there for the heel. I am ready for the heel on this one, so I'm going to put in my Afterthought waist yarn and then keep knitting. This is still a good TV or movie project because the others I really can't do right now if I'm watching something. But yeah, I've been contemplating a lot. Who am I as I do this? And I'm just kind of in this weird state of flux. What am I supposed to be like right now? What is going on with me? Like something's out of whack. Maybe it's just grief, whatever. I've just got to take some time to figure this out. I've been thinking a lot about, my husband and I both, we're kind of like making lists. What is it we need to personally be healthier? And one of the things that I've realized I need is I need to use just my creative whatever skills. I'm not saying I'm super skilled at anything, but I need to be creating things more, not just knitting. That is creative. I'm creating something, but I am creating off of someone else's design, which I love doing. It's very robotic in a way. It's kind of like the example that someone gave of, I don't remember who said it, of just organizing Tupperware and cleaning and baking was really good for her. It was Cassandra. Helped her when she's grieving. That is great for me, especially at times like this where I'm kind of disorganized and just kind of feeling loopy and out of it. Another thing, but I'm not sure how to say this. Like I said, I didn't think this all through perfectly beforehand. And these are real things. I'm not just talking about stuff I want to buy and make. Well, kind of I am. I want to use my creativity more. I think I wanted just to start designing things for myself. Not necessarily to be a designer. I mean, which of us knitters wouldn't like to constantly be making something? And even if you could make some spare money off of that, great. It's not really for that I'm talking about though. I've been knitting for a long time. Almost all of 17 years probably. I have lots of ideas. I've modified patterns before. There's just always someone coming out with something great and I just jump on the bandwagon, you know? But there's a little dissatisfaction inside of me. I'd like to see something through. And I mean, it might be super basic and simple, but it's just me starting to work with the wool in my hands. And from start to finish, it just be my idea. I decide what turn this takes next, where it goes. I might hate it and rip it back and start over. I just think that it would satisfy something deep inside of me. So, yeah, I might eventually write some things down if I came up with something great. A lot of my ideas have been like houseware stuff anyway, but mostly I just want to see if I can do it. So I was thinking of trying to modify patterns more often. Or there's probably one pattern all of you have seen that you thought, I'd like to modify that. Like for instance, there is this book, which I just got not long ago. I think I got this from Firefly Fibers also. Alternate Stitch Dictionary. And Andrea Rangel is really good about, these are really modern, interesting stitch designs, patterns that you can plug into your own design. You could use Elizabeth Zimmerman's sweater recipe, or you could take a pattern like I did, I think it's called Ease, or the Bulky Ease, which is maybe Alicia Plummer pattern that's super, super popular. And it's like solid. A lot of people do just one tonal color. Some people have done stripes. I took it and I did like a Nordic a band stripes of a Nordic Fair Isle traditional like snowflake print. on the arms and body. And it was really fun. It was very challenging for me to get my stitch count good with the pattern. I also used Elizabeth Zimmerman's sweater recipe for a top-down sweater to do like a Totoro themed sweater, which was really hard actually, because the yoke, you know, has the increases and it had to work with the Fair Isle design of the Totoros, and then had little umbrellas at the sleeves. I'll put photos of those in here. I was so satisfied after doing that. I combined two patterns by, can't think of it now. Winland Chia, is that her name? She did the Twinkle, all those Twinkle patterns. You remember, with the big, thick, bulky yarn? I took two and combined them. I saw someone did it, but they had no instructions for how, and so I did it. Another one, I did this like 10 years ago, almost, maybe 10 years ago. I saw it and I dog-eared it, you know. I'll get that later on Ravelry, and it was no longer available. So I just looked at the pattern from photos people had, and I kind of recreated it based on looking at it. But I didn't, you know, like, I never put notes of how I did it, because, you know, that was somebody else's design. It wasn't available to buy. I think she was getting it ready for a book, and so it was unavailable anywhere, and my daughter wanted the sweater. So I was like, well, I'll just make it up. And so it looks just like it. It's really nice. That was very satisfying. So I'm kind of thinking I want to do more of that. Again, it may be nothing interesting at all, really no-brainer and basic, but I just want to, once in a while, not rely on someone else's ideas, but just my own, especially because I have so much special yarn. A lot of it is natural, like from, say, the Ross Family Farm, or Independence Fibers from the Independence Fiber Mill in Texas. Just things like that. They're special. I would like to find a special use for them. That also, the writing that it takes to jot down a pattern, like say if I were to want to copy it for other people to give away or to sell, say one day, that would be an interesting challenge, because I did make up a pattern once. It was just based on a cowl I saw on Madewell. So I wasn't going to charge for that, and it was super basic. Like, I didn't worry about jogless stripes at all. The point was, this is super easy and beginner and basic, and you can just knock this out quick. And it was neat to put together a PDF. I'd never done it before. And you know, several months later, a designer came out with, I mean, it's almost the exact thing. I'm sure it's slicker, way slicker, but it was kind of neat to have done it myself from just looking at something. And even changing that as I worked on it. Oh, I think I want to do this. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking the next knit along could be. So what do you guys think? Is there a pattern that you've thought of doing, if only it was long sleeved or 3/4 length sleeves? Or if you're a newer knitter, you might just want to do something basic, like cut the sleeves back or lengthen them, or add a different kind of ribbing at the cuffs or the hem, or make a V-neck instead of a crew neck, or boat neck instead of crew neck. One thing that's pretty easy to do is to take a basic solid sweater pattern, like I did with, I think it's called Ease, and just add color work, make up a color work design. You can actually find a motif from, say, a book like this and make it work. But personally for me, I'd like to do some color work that I just totally make up on my own from looking at wallpaper or something. So anyway, are you guys interested in trying that? Also, if you want to just make a simple scarf that has bobbles here and there, something irregular and strange, do it. This is the knit along for that, and we'll encourage one another with it via Instagram or here in the YouTube comments. So let me know if you're interested. I'm going to be doing it anyway, but I wouldn't start a knit along for that until January, because I've got my my new Libby Johnson test knit on the needles, and that's going to take up my time till December, and then December's crazy. But my goal is to start getting some things that are in my head out, or just for the fun of it, just picking up some yarn I love and winging it and seeing what I get from it. I have enough skill to make some basic, simple things that are great. I mean, it could be a simple sock, and I just do a little pattern here and there. It could be a beanie. Nothing special at all, but it would just be kind of neat to do it flying without any direction at all. Anyway, that's something that, that's all I'm working on, and I would wear my oak crest hat tonight, except we're going to a nutty, crazy Texas football game, and I have to wear this, where the pom-pom is sort of moves independently of my head. That's when you know it's good, and I'm going to get right in someone's face behind me and do this. Yeah, we're pretty crazy. This is Mid-County Madness game, and this is the one where we like play our rival neighboring town, and it's just nuts. The tickets, of course, sold out. We're going to be crammed in there, and it's super heated, because I think we're both like, if we defeat them, they're out of the running for district. So I don't know. I'm not into football really, but I liked soccer when my son was in it. But I love watching the wackiness of these games. Oh my gosh! And I have my purple sweater. You saw it last week. Maybe I'll wear that. It's supposed to rain though. We'll probably just wear our grungy poncho. I might do my first Instagram story. Maybe I'll take footage of how crazy purple the stands are going to be, and put it on a story. I don't know. I never do Instagram stories. They just feel a little too in my face. Like, I don't know. I'll take my time and think about what I want to put, you know. So everything I do is a way later gram. All right. I hope you guys have a good week, and thank you for putting up with my very rambly talk this week. But I just, I needed to be regular talking to you, and just think of me as that odd friend of yours who mixes and inverts things and rambles a little much. But please leave comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you are interested in doing some sort of off-the-cuff from your own mind, or where you modify a pattern you already have. And like I said, Elizabeth Zimmerman's books, like Knitting Without Tears, has a great sweater recipe that once you know it, you can make a sweater for every member of your family. A really nice, really popular right now yoke sweater like this. So anyway, if anyone else is interested in doing that, and it can be anything, it doesn't have to be a sweater, it can be a hat, it can be a scarf, whatever, message me in the comments. Let me know. Bye.